What's up, gamers? I'm that Game Dragon, and today we're going to be looking at Disgaea 6 Defiance of Destiny. It's been almost 6 years since the last Disgaea. Is this going to be a win for NIS, or it's going to be a failure? Let's tune in and find out. What do you think, Service? What do you think? Disgaea 6, the love story between a princess and a prince, and their zombie dog. What? Their zombie dog. Yes, Disgaea is nothing like any RPG you have ever played. In fact, it is a parody of almost everything that exists in RPGs and just in pop culture in general. Now, it's been almost 6 years since the last Disgaea was released. That's a long time for a follow-up to an RPG, and so there are a lot of expectations. Now, even though NIS has gone through a lot of problems financially, they were able to get this out the door, and who knows what the future holds. This may very well be the last Disgaea that we see. So, does it hold up to the previous Disgaeas? Well, yes and no. So let's jump right into the story. This version of Disgaea's protagonist is Zed, who is a zombie after the God of Destruction. It is a classic revenge tale where he wants the God of Destruction to pay for what he's done to his sister Biko. Now, his companion at the beginning includes Cerberus, which is a zombie dog. Not really a fighter, as you can tell, but they're more for support and guidance. Along the way, Zed's companions will grow in a very comedic fashion. So we will have everything from a king who's referred to as King Wallet, to a prison ranger, to a 10,000-year-old witch, and some of the previous Disgaea characters will be making appearances via DLC and through some of the storyline. So this game is chock full of story and packed with your classic RPG tropes, but again, in parody form. So if you're looking for something serious, Disgaea 6 is probably not it. This is a game where, even though it is a hardcore, and I do mean hardcore, SRPG, it is by no means a serious one. In fact, you will probably be laughing most of the time through your journey with Zed and his crazy group of adventurers. Now, one of the things that Disgaea 6 has done well is made it easier for casual gamers to come in and play. It's always had a great tutorial system, but it is definitely a lot easier for someone who definitely wants to jump in, enjoy the story, get through it, and jump out and not do anything else. Now, I will say the menus are still overwhelming, so you do have to take the time to learn the system if you want to make the most of it. There are so many different things going on in Disgaea 6 that it can be overwhelming, especially for newcomers that are trying to deep dive for the first time. Not only do you have the concept of quests, which most RPG players are used to, but you have things like a squad shop where you can take your group of companions that you build out over time and throw them into these different squads that will add bonuses, buffs, support, help you gain more money, help you gain more experience. So there's just a lot going on, at least with the squads, and how you could break your teams up. Now again, remember, this is an SRPG, so I hate to say similar to Fire Emblem, but that's the closest thing that most people can relate it to, or Final Fantasy Tactics, and most folks, especially new gamers, haven't played Final Fantasy Tactics unless they're really into retro and have gone back and tried some of these games out. But the game does a good job of dumping the player into a hub, and everything is accessible into the hub. So you have your general store where you can pick up your items, buy, things that you need to support your character, weapons, armor, HP and SP refills of varying degrees. So very much like your normal shop. Next thing you also have is this concept of the Netherworld Hospital, where as you actually lose health, have players die or companions die, and spend SP, you can actually build bonuses that will let you get a piece of armor of some sort, or a testament, or a weapon. So, definitely worth going in there and checking what you can claim there. Now, the other thing that you want to look at is the juice bar. This is an amazingly fun way to level up all the different classes for your character, and each character can level up all the different class types, master weapons of varying degrees. So there's a lot that you can pour into your characters here. As you can see, there are 22 different classes, so it is going to take you time, and it does get very expensive to build these different super characters out that can utilize almost any weapon type. So Disgaea does give you tons of flexibility in how you build out these characters. Now, they may have some core strengths, but you can definitely build them out the way you actually want them to be. One of the things that also makes Disgaea unique is that you can actually go into a weapon or a piece of armor or a testament of some sort, and you can level that item up and go in that item itself. There's something called the item world, and you can go in there and level up not just the weapon, but find new weapons, right? And there's this concept of these item world dwellers called innocents that live within the item in varied levels. It doesn't tell you where, but if you find them and you defeat them, then you can take these innocents and add them to other weapons. And what they do is that they buff those weapons or buff your skills. So it's definitely worth going into. You can pour hundreds of hours just into the item world alone. And when we talk about completing the main storyline, is only the beginning. Once you're past the main story, this is where Disgaea really opens itself up. Before you know it, you will be dealing damage in the quadrillions. You heard me right, yes, quadrillions. Your characters will have attack levels in the trillions or more. You can take your characters as far as you want them to go. One of the concepts in this game that is very special is, I guess, the concept of super reincarnation. It's also part of the storyline, and the game pushes you to use super reincarnation over and over again, because each time you do, that iteration of your character that comes back to life is much stronger than before, and you can do this almost to unlimited levels. The only thing stopping you is really your imagination of how far you want your character to go. Now remember, you are an undead zombie. There are no morals here, so cheating is pushed and actually expected if you want to get to these high level, high damage character sets that you build out. It's just one of the things you do. They actually have a cheat system that they tell you to utilize and remind you that's there, so you can set your experience gain to 600%, set your money gain to 600%. You can move these up and down. You can make the damage levels for the bad guys, in a hellish mode if you want to. Anything that you need to do to get your character to that next level while you're grinding is available to you. Which leads me to one of the other things that I forgot to mention, is the Dark Assembly. Now, the Assembly is something that is not new to Disgaea. It's been used before. You actually go into the Dark Assembly to try to pass bills, and these bills will give you things like triple experience. They'll give you things like access to different worlds, the ability to change colors. Also, the one area where you go into to super reincarnate, so you will be utilizing it a lot. But there's just a countless amount of different challenges and events, boosts that you can use the Dark Assembly to make the game not only more accessible but more fun. and it's just one of those things I'm completely glad they brought back. Now comes to some of the things that are not so good. Disgaea 6 has, oddly enough, weird performance issues, especially when you are in the hub world and kind of just moving around. Now, once you're in the actual grid system and fighting enemies, things are fine. But again, this is not going to be PS5 level graphics. It's not meant to be. This is a classic Japanese SRPG. You play it for the strategy, you play it for the story, you don't play it for huge amazing graphics, but they do take a lot of care to differentiate all the specials amongst the characters. And you can see here, as a good example, is it intensive when it comes to the graphics? No, it's probably not gonna push your system, but they're cute and they're fun, and they remind me of, you know, old school Final Fantasy games when you used to do the summons, and I used to love those animations. But if you want to skip them, you can, so that's awesome. But they're there and they're enjoyable, and so it's one of those things where your mileage may vary on what you actually want to see and how much you want to see of these. There's an amazing auto battle system, and you could actually increase the DI, which is the demon intelligence. It's a little crazy twist, and like I said, they love parodies in Disgaea, and so you're gonna see lots of little fun twists like that with naming conventions and so on. Now look, I'm going to be honest with you, it is not as great a story as Disgaea 1. I think that Laharl, Etna, and Flan were the best characters ever. I think it was the best storyline ever. In my opinion, none of the Disgaeas have come close to that. But this is a good try, and I think it is still a great story. It's still enjoyable. Classic diehard fans are, of course, going to say, like I said, hey, he's not Laharl. But you know what? Zed is a character that grows on you over time. In fact, all the characters that they've introduced grow on you over time, and you find yourself very attached to each one of them and their own personal purposes in being companions with Zed. And you know, what more can you ask for? I can tell you right now, the main story went by so quick that I was actually very sad when I was done with it. And isn't that the definition of a good game? When you actually complete it, you feel like there's a hole. But that's where Disgaea is special, right? Because you still have hundreds of hours you can pour into this. I had to decide when was a stopping point, because I just want to keep leveling my characters and making them insanely crazy powerful, and just seeing them throw out trillions upon trillions of hit points in damage. And it's just one of those things that if you look at the screen right now, you can see like, wow, like it's just crazy. It's crazy fun to watch and crazy fun to experience. And that's what Disgaea is. It's one of these games that it's all over the place. It's got a lot of, you know, lowbrow humor. It makes fun of itself. It makes fun of pop culture. It definitely does not take itself serious, and I love that. It's just one of those games that you have to fall in love with for its crude, I don't give a damn attitude. And you know what? I love it. I think you will enjoy it. It definitely gets a thumbs up from me. It is definitely a great follow-up to a great series, and if this is the last Disgaea, well, I think they did a good job with what they could, and it definitely stands right there next to all the rest of the Disgaeas. If you're a casual RPG player or you're a hardcore RPG player, this is a game that I think caters to both ends of the spectrum. It's a great game to learn. It's something that you can play, put it down, come back, because it's an SRPG, so you can take your time to figure things out and think about how you want to tackle your objectives. If I had to give it a score, I would give it an 8 out of 10, not because I'm a fan, but because it is a great game to a definitely underrated series, and it deserves a lot more respect and love than it definitely gets. I'm that Game Dragon. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that subscribe button. Also smack the notification bell so you can get all our content. Put your comments below, and don't forget to like this video. Hopefully, we'll see you next time.